Hi everyone here. My name is Monroe Chen. I'm with KuCoin Mining Pool. I'm living in Irvine, California. A long flight here, getting really delayed last night. So I only got 2 hours sleep. Sorry, I'm a little bit.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben Gagnon. I'm the Chief Mine Officer of Bitfarms. We're one of the oldest and largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies in the world. We have almost 2% of the Bitcoin network, and we're publicly traded on Toronto Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. I've been mining Bitcoin full-time since 2015, and I live in Costa Rica.
Hello, I'm Priya Leary. I'm one of the co-founders of CoinMint. I live here in Miami, currently working on various special projects in the mining space, and that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to just jump right into the first question. So, how can we incentivize miners to use more renewable energy sources for their mining operations or mining pods? So, anyone can really start with this one.
Sure. Well, Bitfarms has already done hydropower mining for a very, very long time. We've mined over 20,000 Bitcoins with hydropower over the last 5 years. Honestly, I don't think there should be any sort of incentive beyond the natural market for you to mine Bitcoin. If you need a subsidy, you should not be in this space. And that's just the reality of it. This is a very, very competitive industry, and we're here to monetize energy. You need to find energy sources that nobody else wants. Energy sources that are overlooked, underutilized, otherwise would be wasted. Those are the energy sources you want that will be economical. If you are trying to compete with people in Manhattan or Dallas, sorry, you're not going to be competitive enough. All right? We do not need any further incentives to mine Bitcoin. The incentive is already there in the free market economics. And long term, people will go to the energy sources that have no other sources of demand. That's where this is. That's what's valuable here, and that's the only incentive that matters.
So maybe I'll take the other side of that, Ben, is that, why shouldn't there be subsidies for Bitcoin mining like they are in the other, a lot of the other energy space for solar and for wind? Why shouldn't Bitcoin mining benefit, especially given the controversy that Bitcoin mining, it's a big waste of energy? Why shouldn't the governments provide subsidies for Bitcoin mining, given how important Bitcoin is, to have a subsidy? Why not?
Because we don't need a subsidy. You really don't need a subsidy. What you need is regulatory clarity and certainty that things are not going to flip upside down on you at the drop of a hat, right? I don't need free money. All I need is for you to get out of the way and to provide a clear regulatory framework for which we can operate, right? We are not like other industries, and we should not follow their path. This is a beautiful industry because of the free market it is. Subsidies will only corrupt the economics and the incentives and lead to malinvestment across the entire space. That is not what we're here for. We are profit maximalists, right? It is all about that, profit maximalism. This is the most free form of it.
Interesting take. Monroe, do you want to add anything to this? Or maybe to his? Okay, yeah, no worries. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. Next question is, how can we ensure that the environmental impacts of Bitcoin mining are properly assessed and addressed?
I would say not nuclear. The clear and I'm so sorry. I'm a little bit nervous. I would say high efficiency will be more important because using high efficiency hardwares, that's one of the paths. I would say that's more helpful for the environment, and that will be definitely helping. And also, if there's government supporting with the specific kind of rules, that will be also helping as well.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe you're not going to be surprised by my last answer, but I really don't think this is a real thing. Accepting this premise that we need to account for it when nobody else does is really flawed. It's really uneven. It's really unfair. The reality is that we consume a really, really negligible amount of energy in the world. Again, most of it, the underutilized, the wasted, the overlooked, the unable to access foreign markets or domestic markets. We're using the energy that nobody else wants, and it's a tiny amount. It's like 0.1% of the world's electricity, not even the energy. It's like so tiny and inconsequential. And when you look at how they've designed energy systems to avoid blackouts right by design, you have to have energy supply greater than energy demand. No, you can't get around that, because if your energy demand exceeds energy supply, you have blackouts, right? So there's always this gap of electricity baked into the system. There's so much waste in there. Like, we as an industry can grow so many times just going after this tiny little low-hanging fruit. And it's an economic incentive to address the waste. And if it's an economic incentive to reduce the emissions. And so when we're talking about Bitcoin mining energy emissions and what can we do to account for it, this is the only natural economic incentive on the planet to reduce your emissions and reduce your energy waste. The only one. And we're talking about subsidies for it. Like, this is crazy. You have to have subsidies to reduce your energy waste or emissions in every other industry. We're the only one that's a natural economic incentive to do the very thing that they want. And they hate us for it.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, so I'd just like to kind of add on and emphasize what Ben said. It said, like, why should Bitcoin mining necessarily be treated differently from an environmental perspective than other businesses? Like, let's just say there was a aluminum smelter, which clearly is a much dirtier business than Bitcoin mining. Why shouldn't Bitcoin mining be held to the same standard? And I think that's basically saying something similar than what Ben was saying.
Right. And then Monroe, I'm not sure if you wanted to chime into this one. Okay. So we're going to go to the next question, which is, what are some of the most important considerations that companies and organizations should keep in mind when developing sustainable Bitcoin mining operations? Or, oh, did I read that one? Yes, I did. Hold up.
No, that's a good one.
All right, okay. I'll read that again. What are some of the most important considerations that companies and organizations should keep in mind when developing sustainable Bitcoin mining operations or mining pods?
Happy to take that one. Really, I think the biggest thing that you want is sustainability in your economics, right? And the sustainability in your economics, again, comes from tapping into those energy sources which are underutilized, overlooked, and otherwise would be wasted. So my personal favorite is hydropower. I really, really like hydropower because there's very few inflationary pressures in that supply chain, which is going to cause my electricity prices to go up, right? So sure, it's a nice, clean energy, but the other thing is it's a really sustainable economic strategy, right? As natural gas has massive volatility, you can use that to your benefit if you're successful at trading. But with hydro, I don't even need to hedge out my risk. It's just fixed. It's stable. And the way that the hydro works is they usually built up these hydroelectric dams to power heavy industry, which is gone. It's been outsourced to other countries. It's been turned into new plants that can no longer compete. And so the power is there. It's usually there in massive excessive quantities than the demand or the transmission is capable of. And that means that you can get a really nice sustainable energy profile and economic profile. And that's my personal favorite. But there's different, sustainable strategies on the economics for every different group. And I'm not saying that energy trading is not a bad one. Energy trading is a very, very effective strategy to do this. But you need to be thinking about profit maximalism over everything else in this industry. And if you are pursuing something that is sustainably clean but not sustainably economically, you will not survive this. Yep. You may get lucky and ride a bull ride up and make a bunch of money, but you will not survive in the long term. This industry is ruthlessly competitive. And just because Bitcoin price is at $28,000 today does not mean that we're out of the bear market, right? Bitcoin mining revenue has not really grown that much, and difficulty continues to grow, and there's a ton of market supply, right? You need to be really, really thinking about the sustainability of your economics here first and foremost.
Ben, thank you so much.
Yeah, I just kind of, again, agreeing with Ben here that economic sustainability, I think, is basically, goes hand in hand with, when you're picking your energy source, whether it be hydro or let's say you're in a country that, Bitcoin mining is always controversial. Say, hey, we're taking energy away from the regular people, and taking that energy away is going to increase their electricity costs. So I think kind of having a long-term strategy in terms of like political sustainability, economical sustainability, and that goes hand in hand with, you know, picking your energy source, whether it be, you know, hydro, that's underused hydro, or maybe it's stranded power that's off the grid with flared mining. You know, picking that strategy seems like, you know, anyway, just kind of emphasizing what Ben said.
Okay, can we actually like talk about what each of one of you guys, ladies, are doing differently within the space? Maybe talking about your projects, any new policies, anything, just so we can kind of switch a little bit of the gears.
Sure. Here, because as is known, I'm from the mining pool, so most of the time we're kind of like looking for places and looking for clients. We're looking for everything, kind of trying to make everyone together and try to make everyone help each other, that kind of. And with the sustainability, I would say I will look good on this. I would say, like with the energy part, with the new, I'm so sorry. I'm still like a little bit like out of my.
No, you're good.
Do you want to go first, Ben, and
Sure.
chat?
So at Bitfarms, we are trying to be the institutional counterparty of choice for investors to get exposure to the space. What do I mean by that? Bitcoin mining obviously has a lot of interesting economics and a lot of interesting profit, right, incentives around here. People want exposure to this rapidly growing space where people seem to be making a lot of money. The problem is in Bitcoin that, you know, it is a completely free market and there's bad apples in it. There's always been bad apples. And unfortunately, we as an industry do not get remembered for the things that we do right. We get remembered for all the bad things that people have done over the years. And that's the only thing that they remember. And they hash on that over and over and over again. And so while there's a lot of interesting incentive here in Bitcoin mining, there's also a lot of volatility. And when you're taking on that kind of volatility risk, why do you want to compound that with a bad counterparty, right? There's already enough volatility risk in the Bitcoin mining economics itself. Why do you want to trust your money to somebody that's not trustworthy, right? So we as a company have been trying to do things the right way since we got started. We did hydropower before anybody even cared. We went through the front door with the Ontario Securities Exchange Commission, did long-form prospectus. We didn't do an RTO. We didn't do a SPAC, right? We didn't do some sort of back channel to get onto public markets. We did the same thing when we listed on NASDAQ, went through the front door with the SEC. We did things fully compliant. We're the only Bitcoin miner that's had a Big Four auditor for the last 5 years. We're the only publicly traded Bitcoin miner with a Big Four auditor today, right? These are things that we are doing not because they're easy, but because they're hard and nobody else is willing to put in the effort, right? And so when you're willing to take that extra step, these are the things that we think investors are going to want to see before they get into the space. And for this space to take it to the next institutional level, they're not going to trust random guys in a garage, right? They want institutional counterparties that follow their rules, that do things the way that they do them, that tick the boxes regulatory in terms of SOX compliance and everything else.
Right.
And so we are trying to minimize that counterparty risk through everything that we do and show institutional investors that this is a space where you can find trusted partners and you can use those trusted partners to grow your business and improve your bottom line.
Really happy that you mentioned that. Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah, so I think one of the projects that I'm working on that's different than I've done things in the past is in Argentina. And the partner that we've had there has been particularly thoughtful in making sure it's sustainable, it's a bit different approach than I've done in the past. And specifically, it's you know, one of the controversies that I mentioned just a few minutes ago was that if you have a perception of the population that Bitcoin mining is increasing their electricity price, if it's bad for the environment, that's a particular stigma that's associated with Bitcoin mining. So, this particular partner, they said, hey, let's get ahead of that. Let's make sure that we're not using grid power, and let's show we can prove that. And this is a gas flaring project. So this particular company has, thousands of different sites for gas flaring, and some of their investors are U.S. investors, and they have a mandate, an ESG mandate, where they have to do something with their flared gas, whether it be Bitcoin mining or something else. So having this kind of strategy that's thought through, but from a public perspective, public perception perspective, political perspective, and environmental perspective, to ensure it has longevity, from that perspective, and then from the economic side, I think gas flaring, is something that's fairly obvious. There's certain companies that have, this is new to me, there's certain companies in the U.S. that have been doing this successfully for a while, so this is something that's I've been doing differently.
Thank you so much. And then we're going to go back to Monroe. Okay. All right. And then next question we have is, what are some of the most significant risks associated with blockchain mining from an environmental perspective? How can these risks be mitigated?
The greatest risk from an environmental perspective is just people not knowing what they're talking about. There's a lot of really, really bad information out there on environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. Most of it is wrong. Most of it is incredibly biased. Most of it has actually been proven wrong and continues to be cited over and over again in academic and political papers. The biggest risk that we have here is bad information and a lack of organization as an industry, right? We actually have all the economics on our side. We have all the proper incentives on our side. We have all the companies doing the right things on our side. There's the narrative here, but it's not being pushed and it's not being educated about in the same way that other industries do, right? Bitcoin mining has hit under the table for almost its entire existence. We didn't want to engage. We did not want to attract attention. We specifically wanted to just be left alone. But the industry has grown past that point. We are at that point where it needs to engage. We are a large, huge industry that has very meaningful economic impacts in the communities that we're operating in. And it's time for that to be known. This is a powerful, powerful story for both sides to get what they want. Where on the left, we have a natural economic incentive to reduce emissions, reduce waste, provide better stability to the grid. And on the right, you've got rural development and economic job growth. This is not a polarizing industry. This should be an actually unifying industry. Both sides can get exactly what they want. And that's what needs to happen here, because when both sides realize that, there is a complete house of cards here that this environmental story is built up on, then we can actually start getting into embracing this industry, deploying it to its full potential, and seeing the economic, juggernaut that comes out of North America as an energy country or an energy market, right? That's what the biggest risk is, not engaging and not getting that done.
And then Ben, just for my knowledge, you said that there was a lot of false information out there. Well, where can someone like myself get the right information and be well informed? Where would you go? Where would you start?
So the problem with that is we have no academics who have done this. The academics who write about Bitcoin mining have never mined a Bitcoin. A lot of them have never been to a Bitcoin mine. A lot of them don't even follow their own stated methodology, right? So the best data is coming from the industry right now, but it's seen as biased. And so that's a problem. But this is something that's actually really easy to model, right? And so as an industry, we're going to start getting together. We've spoken about this with several different other companies in the space. We're going to start getting together. We're going to start organizing data studies. We're going to start engaging with universities in order to provide them data to do the research, right? Unfortunately, there is no good place to go. Bitcoin Mag is the best place to go for information, and nobody is going to trust Bitcoin Magazine. It's not academic.
All right, thank you so much.
I think the best way to learn and to know this the real information there is to join the industry. I think that's the
Right.
best way. So like people within the industry will have like a lot of like true information, and you will have your own like mind to tell like is it true or is it like just someone wanted to write a academic paper or like that kind of that's totally different. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, I guess the question is, what environmental risks are there? And I think that, anyone who's informed on the industry understands that, the mining industry is, for the most part, largely on top of that from an energy perspective. And I was just trying to, when you asked that question, I was thinking to myself, what actually environmental issues are there? I'm not sure you could qualify them as risks. And I was just thinking to myself, just going around, if you've been around a mining site that's been around for some years, the obvious thing that I can see is just, electronic waste. And, that's a big question. I don't think it's not just for Bitcoin mining. It's like, hey, we have a tremendous amount. Miners are basically disposable. They're useless in about 3 years. What do you do with old electronic waste? I don't think it's not particular to the mining industry, but I was just thinking to myself about that, that's, to me, like the most legitimate, issue there, and it's facing, us, what do we do with our old cell phones, our old televisions? The same issue.
I'm gonna disagree with that, not surprisingly. Bitcoin miners, their economic useful lifespan is like 5 to 7 years. It really is quite a long time. The data for e-waste is based on the premise that miners are useless after 1.5 years, right? You're off by a factor of 4. Just right off the bat. First base emission, you're off by a factor of 4. Okay? Secondly, there's almost no hazardous chemicals in a miner, right? Like, we're talking about silicone chips, PCB boards. The most hazardous chemicals are trace amounts in like the capacitors, a couple of really, really small components, and the thermal paste. But what's in your cell phone that you throw away every 2 years? How many billions of those are being thrown away every 2 years? What are the chemicals in the e-waste that are associated with the LED screens and everything else that are in there? There's more crap in a phone that everybody cycles every 2 years, but you got to have the newest phone, and nobody cares about the e-waste of iPhones. And so, this is something where the industry really is highly commoditized. These products are highly recyclable, and people are incentivized to do that because of the huge amount of aluminum. I've seen it done countless times in both Western markets and Chinese markets where the labor justifies the disassembly and recycling costs. Like, I don't think this is a big problem at all. And miners get recycled off into lower cost economic jurisdictions to do things like flare gas mining for a much lower cost.
So Ben, I got about 5,000 S9s sitting in a warehouse in Fort Lauderdale, and the warehouse cost is more than they're worth. What do I do with them?
You recycle them. Or you send them off to Venezuela, and they'll put them on some sort. Or you send them off to Texas, and they put them on flare gas. Huh?
You want them?
Hey, I'm too busy.
You can have them.
I'm too busy,
Yeah.
but look,
Yeah,
we've done this.
yeah.
We've done this over and over
Yeah.
again. We have over 50,000 miners at Bitfarms right now, right? We've been in operation for over 5 years. Like, sometimes the miners are not worth more than their scrap metal, and then people will recycle them for their scrap metal. People are willing to break into businesses to steal copper wire because of the scrap metal. Like, there was somebody out there who, if you gave them the opportunity, they'd take it apart for free, and they'd take the scrap metal.
Okay, well, if you know anyone, send them my way. It's tired to appear in the
I
warehouse.
like a good deal on a stage. This is nice. All right, so I'm gonna say that is time. Or, yeah, we got 2 minutes left, so I kind of want any closing statements from each of you, gentlemen and women, on this stage. So, actually, if you don't mind going first.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure what I should say closing, but I think, Bitcoin mining is obviously, it's a much different business now than it was a few years ago, and it's a much more mature business, and, I'm interested to see where it's going to be in a few years. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, same. Thank you. And then Ben, any closing thoughts, just in general on the topics or what you're passionate about?
I'm pretty passionate about this space, if that hasn't been clear already. But Bitcoin mining is the purest, most beautiful free market on the planet. It's a combination of physics, electricity, economics. I mean, it is truly, truly fascinating space. And what I think you'll learn while walking around this conference today and talking to other Bitcoin miners is that you're going to meet some of the most passionate, some of the most intelligent, and some of the most motivated people on the planet here in this industry doing what they think is the right thing to be doing. That's a pretty rare thing. You don't see the kind of conviction and belief in most people's work. You don't see it in auditors. You don't see it in accountants. You don't see it in Wall Street. You don't see it in most industries, but you will see it here today. And there's a reason for that, because what we're doing is truly special and it truly matters.
Thank you.
I agree with it. And I would say wherever there's challenge, there should be there should be opportunities. So it doesn't matter what kind of like energy you're using. Like it's better for this industry to using like renewable energy, and for like high efficient hardwares, as well as like waste management. There's problems. There's challenge there. That's why we see there's we have like room to improve it. That's why we can make this industry better. That's what I think. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
panelists. Give it up for them.